What I'm going to talk about today is usually considered illogical. A lot of people feel offended when I talk about it. It is usually politically incorrect, especially in the atmosphere environment that we are right now, where everybody is really concerned about crime against women. But I would still talk about it because it's much needed, especially if we all believe that justice is the right of every individual, regardless of their gender. I'm going to be talking about men today. I'm going to be talking about men who are victimized. I'm going to be talking about men who are being abused, systematically abused by laws that have been made for protection of women, but are in turn coming out to be as a tool of injustice to men and women. And I'm going to be talking about men who absolutely are nowhere in the conversations when we talk about gender. I never thought about it. To be very honest, I never thought men would have any issues, men would have any concern. I'm a woman, why should I care about men? So I always had that attitude that most of us usually have. Until 3 years ago, when I was standing in the court along with a family member of mine, a very close relative of mine, and he was going through divorce. The woman had an extramarital affair, and when the family figured out, there were discussions on what to do next. Well, the guy gave both the options to the girl. She could move on because it's her right to live what she wants to do, and he also gave her the option that he's ready to forget everything and then move on with life. But the girl was hell-bent on breaking the marriage. Now, everything was fine until here, and after this, all hell broke loose. Now, while she was the one who was actually the wrongdoer in the marriage, she accused the family of dowry and domestic violence. And I remember this afternoon when I was standing in the court with this woman and her sister was telling this woman basically, you have all the laws by your side, so you should really be happy about it. And I, as a woman, was confused that day. Just because I'm a woman, does it give me all the right or power to ruin a family and a man? Well, even till that point, I did not act. I thought about it, and I was extremely disturbed about it, but I did not react or act until I saw this video online.
आज अपनी जिंदगी खत्म करने जा रहा हूँ। इसकी वजह है मेरे साथ जो धोखा हुआ, मेरे साथ जो ज्यादती की जा रही है, मेरे खिलाफ झूठा जहेज फरोशी का केस डाला। मैं आधा उसी दिन मर गया था जिस दिन मुझे पुलिस थाने जाना पड़ा।
Yeah, so Syed Ahmed Makhdoom committed suicide in 2009. He was accused of a dowry case, and this is what he left as an evidence of the humiliation and the harassment that he had gone through. Makhdoom is not the only one who is being harassed because of gender-biased laws in India. There are several men and their families that are falling victim to these laws. Martyrs of Marriage is a project that I thought of beginning when I saw this video. I was moved into tears, and I just could not think of being silent anymore, and that's why I thought I would make a documentary film on the way men are being victimized in India, their families are being victimized in India because of gender-biased laws. Martyrs of Marriage is a documentary feature that's the story of people who have fought, who are fighting, and people who succumbed to the most unexpected battle of their life, which is marriage. We think of marriage as a very beautiful bond. We think of marriage as a lifelong bond. We don't think about divorce, but divorce is reality of today. When I've spoken to lawyers and a lot of people in the judiciary, divorce rates are touching something between 30 to 40%. Marriages are falling apart, and when a marriage falls apart, it's the man and his family who are really at the wrong side. On your left is a story of a man and his family. He was being tormented, he was being abused, he was being humiliated for the mere fact that he was not able to earn as much as his wife wanted him to. And though he had already cut off all his ties from his parents, whenever he visited his or took care of his ailing mother, his wife used to create a big ruckus in the family. Being abused, he went to the police station and told the cops, "Can you please keep me in the lockup because I cannot live at my home?" The cops told him that they have absolutely nothing for him. They have no law for his protection and they can't do anything, and he must go back home because they can't really do something for him. So this man eventually, after taking all the humiliation, filed for divorce. That's apparently the only option available for a man if he is in an abusive relationship. You can file a divorce on grounds of cruelty. That's what he did. And as soon as his wife received the summons, 2 days after, she went in front of his house and created a big mess over there and made sure that his entire family, even though they were not staying with them, were dragged to the police station. He hung himself the same night. On the right side is the story of a man who was accused in a domestic violence in a dowry case when he did the DNA test of his 2-year-old son. His was a 6-year-old marriage. He had a 2-year-old son, and because of certain apprehensions, he conducted a DNA test. The next day, he was arrested under the Dowry Act. No prizes for guessing. He's not the father of his child. So the child belongs to somebody else, and his wife implicated him in a dowry case because he conducted the DNA test. How easy it is to misuse a law that's made for protection of women in India? This is a slide that tells you a little bit about that. A 2-year and a 4-year-old accused in a domestic violence case. I mean, it's unbelievable, but it's true. It's just a 25-day-old story from Bangalore where wife of this guy ran away with her boyfriend after 10 days of marriage, and when he went to the court to nullify the marriage, she accused him and his entire family, including these 2 kiddos, in a domestic violence and a dowry claim. Section 498A of Indian Penal Code, a law that was made with very noble intentions to prevent violence and cruelty perpetrated on married women from the hands of their husband and their families. It was a law made with very good intentions, but 30 years down the line, today 498A is being known as the law that's been most abused in the history of Indian jurisprudence. The number of people arrested under this law that essentially deals with this family setup is more than 23 lakhs, less than only petty crimes like theft and hurt. More than 5 lakh women have been arrested under this law alone. And when I say women, I'm talking about sisters of a boy, mother of a boy, 85-year-old, 90-year-old women, small young girls like 15, 16-year-old girls, 6-year-old boys who have been arrested under this law just because their name was written in that complaint. It does not matter whether you have actually done something or you have not done something, but you have been accused of this law. Number of people who are eventually found guilty under this law is a bare minimum. Barely 15% of people are actually found guilty under this law. And this is what our lawmakers actually have to say. Now, because I told you in the beginning, whatever I'm going to talk about, I'll have to give a lot of evidences for it because I'm talking about men. When we talk about women, we don't really need to give evidences. But I shall tell you what Supreme Court of India has said about 498A. Merely because the provision is constitutional and intra-vires does not give a license to unscrupulous persons to wreak personal vendetta or unleash harassment. By misuse of the provision, a new legal terrorism can be unleashed. The provision is to be used as a shield and not an assassin's weapon. If cry of wolf is made too often as a prank, assistance and protection may not be available when actual wolf appears. This was Sushil Kumar versus Union of India. Just this year, Supreme Court of India said something about 498A again. The fact that 498A is cognizable and non-bailable offense has lent it a dubious place of pride amongst provisions that are used as weapons than shield by disgruntled wives. These are the statements by the highest court of India. They are extremely concerned about the misuse of this law, and a law that was made for protection of women. If it's being misused, it's an injustice to women also. Like I said, even after so many statements by the courts, even after so much of evidence that this law is being grossly misused, nothing has been really done about this law. No changes have been made in this law, though there have been various recommendations given by various authorities that the law really needs amendment because it's being misused much more than it's being used. What happens when you're accused of a 498A? You're basically asked to either pay up, settle the case, or you keep on fighting for years and years, even if you're innocent. As a result, a lot of people are committing suicide, not only men, but women as well. Here's a story where these two people were asked to pay up 50 lakhs, else suffer a case forever. They hanged themselves. That's a family, all four of them were threatened of a 498A. They killed themselves. That's a barely 18-year-old girl who was threatened of the same case by her sister-in-law, and she hung herself. Are men vulnerable? Yes, men are vulnerable, and that's what I figured out in the last 2.5, 3 years when I've been researching and working on this subject and my documentary film. You can be accused of a domestic violence if you shout at your wife, but if your wife shouts at you, there's nothing you can pretty much do. You can be accused of domestic violence if your family circumstances are such that she needs to work. But if she doesn't want to work and if you force her to work, it's coded in the law that she can accuse you of domestic violence. I've seen people being implicated in sexual harassment at workplace because the woman did not get a good appraisal and she filed a case against the person. Or if a person asks the woman for a drink, he has been accused of sexual harassment at workplace. I've seen people being accused of molestation because of a fight in the bus, and I'm sure you all must have heard about the Rohtak Bravehearts case. I brought to the fore the other side of the Rohtak Bravehearts. Those two videos were made by me, and when I visited those villages, and when I met the people who were in the bus, nobody had anything to say what the girls were saying. But what is happening today? Kuldeep, the main accused, has been denied an admit card, and he was supposed to join army for a crime that's not been proven yet. So I see people being accused of rape because their relationships have turned sour. Now this is scary. This is really scary. This should be even scarier for women than it is for men, because if provisions that are meant for their safety and protection are misused, then when, like Supreme Court said, when the actual wolf would appear, you would not get any assistance because you would not be believed. Delhi Commission of Women has come out with a statistic that of the rape cases filed between April 2013 and July 2014, a whopping 53% were false. A thorough research done by newspaper The Hindu over 6 months, they studied the entire cases, all the cases that were filed in Delhi, which has come to be known as the rape capital of India. Out of all the cases filed, the ones that went under trial, 40% of those cases were the cases where a young girl, had willingly eloped with a boyfriend, and when she came back, the parents filed a rape case on the boy. 25% of the cases are cases of rape on promise of marriage. These are consensual relationships being termed as rape. I would tell you a story of a boy who called me up. He cried inconsolably. This was just a few months ago. 70% of the cases that were filed in Delhi now have the acquittal rate. Earlier was 46%, but after the Nirbhaya case, which we all really felt so sorry about, and the rape laws were amended after that, but the acquittal rate after that has gone from 46% to 70%. Good sign? Absolutely not a good sign. Injustice to men, of course, and their families too. What happens when you are accused of something that you've not done? If you're an actual victim of dowry, of crime of dowry, it's painful for you. But equally painful is the accusation of harassing somebody for dowry when you actually did not. Rape is a heinous crime, but if somebody is falsely accused of rape, it's an equal pain, if not anything less. This is the plea of a man who was acquitted of rape after spending 4 years in jail. He asked the Supreme Court to return his dignity. And you know what happens in these cases? The media never reports the acquittals. That's why the societal perception is that it's only women who are being victimized. You never come to know that there are issues with men, and they also have problems. I remember talking to a friend of mine who writes for one of these crime serials that are coming on various channels these days, and she told me, Deepika, when we show false cases, the TRPs do not come. people do not like to watch them. People don't understand the pain of families who are wrongly accused or families who suffer because of false accusations. And I was surprised, but I knew this fact. This man told the Supreme Court that even after his acquittal, the entire community thinks that he is a rapist because the media never reported that, and most of us believe what media shows us. Only way that we know that men are suffering in India is this statistic. Apart from this, there's nothing that we know is happening to men. The Domestic Violence Act, which is gender neutral across the world, a man, if he is being abused in a relationship, can file a domestic violence case, but in India, you cannot. So this is the only statistic which is available with us. Twice the number of married men commit suicide as compared to women. We have a commission for animals. We have a commission for women, we have a commission for children, but we do not have any government organization that works for men or on their issues. I'm a volunteer with an organization called Save Indian Family. You would be startled to hear that a helpline that they run for distressed men get 135 calls every day. It's run by volunteers. There's no government support. It's volunteers who are running those helpline, and all that we do is give a shoulder of support. Listen to these people who absolutely have no listening in the society. When you're accused in a case like that, everybody sorts of leave you. If you're a family, if you're a friend, they think that you must be guilty, and that's why you have been accused. So we give these people a shoulder of support. That's Shrenik. I met him in Bangalore. He was crying. He had already attempted suicide once. But today, he is being heard, and he has been encouraged to fight back and not to compromise. Today, he is fighting back in his place and spreading awareness about these issues. There's more to it if this was not enough. There are more laws that are coming now for protection of women, should come, absolutely needed, but nothing that can be misused. We're now getting a new ground for divorce, which is irretrievable breakdown of marriage. Men would have to part away from their property if their marriage fails. Whether you are guilty or not, whether you're at mistake or not, you would have to part away from your property, and the judge would decide the quantum of that property to be given to the woman. As the law has not come yet, it's still in the draft phase, but the draft does not specify any or gives no importance to the duration of marriage. If I've spent 20 years in a marriage, I should get a lot of things. But if I've spent just 2 days in the marriage, I don't know what I deserve. But that's the new law that's coming into picture. Why should you care? The current cases pending in the judiciary is 3 crore. And I don't know how many years that it would take for those cases to wind up. So you should care, because our judiciary is being filled with these cases that are not genuine, but they are the cases that are being filed in the courts because you wanted to settle score with someone. You should care, because if you're a woman and if your brother, son, father, friend, cousin would be accused of a crime, and no matter how much you know that he is innocent, he would still be called guilty, and his innocence would not be heard. Of course, if you're a man, you should care. What are we asking for? We aren't asking for too much. What are we asking for? We are asking for gender-neutral laws so that the person who is actually committing the crime is punished, and it's not the gender that's punished. We are asking for strong misuse clause under provisions that basically give so much of importance to the testimony of a person. Just on basis of a statement, you can build an entire case on it. So if that case has been filed with oblique motives, then that person also deserves to be punished. A lot of people call me anti-women. A lot of people say that I don't understand the pain of women, but that's not true. I do understand the pain of women, but I also do understand the pain of men and their families. And that's why when I saw injustice happening in the name of justice to women, I refused to remain neutral and side the oppressor, as what Desmond Tutu once said. And that's why I went on an absolutely off the beaten path, and I started fighting for justice for men. Thank you.